the biggest piece as well is being able to reuse the content. So when you look at creators, make sure that you're picking people who have a really nice aesthetic and then repurpose that content.
Aaron from Vamp, thanks for joining us in a new studio this time.
Mate, it's nice. New digs, love it.
You did pass a comment that at least this one's air conditioned. Yeah. Last time it was super hot as well, but at least we're a bit cooler today.
Exactly.
It's interesting having you on now, right? Because the last couple of weeks we've interviewed a lot of companies that are talking about social media influencers, mostly Instagram influencers, and it's been a mixed bag, right? We've had people come in that their platform is based on Instagram influencers and social influencers, and they're completely pro, right? They're like, it's the way things are going, it's the best value for money, etc. And then there's people who come in that spent 60 grand. One guy spent on Instagram influencers and didn't have one download, so there's a bit of a sour taste in his mouth.
Yeah. Can
you help us shed some light on how businesses can actually work with influencers and make it work? I think it's probably the most obvious one, because everyone watching owns a business and everyone wants PR and publicity. So where are people going wrong, basically?
Well, definitely the fit is the main thing, right? Like even the way that we structure things at Vamp, it's all about that authenticity piece. So getting them to opt into campaigns and work on things that they have a natural affinity to. So, I definitely believe in that kind of the right pairing is really important in running campaigns. And more importantly, when you're actually, the briefing process and, I guess getting them to buy into the brand and what you're trying to achieve as well as part of the campaign.
Yeah, so a brand, basically on Vamp, a brand can put on a brief. We want, I don't even want to mention brands, Skittles is the only one I can think of. Anyway, let's say Skittles, right? And they come on and say, we want like a fun, like stop motion campaign, blah, blah, blah. And then creators will come on and do like, give their ideas, basically say, look, I will do this for you, I will do that for you, and then Skittles go, I like this one, and they go off and do it. Is that basically it?
It's a little bit different. So the way that we do it is we brief out to our creator network. We get interest initially, so the brief is pretty short. It's kind of like, these are the do's and don'ts, this is the brand, and this is a very short kind of paraphrase of what the brand's looking to achieve.
Yeah.
And then they kind of go into like a vetting pool. So the brand would then go through and select the ones that they want to work with, but they do it based on their Instagram or their Instagram feed, is using that as like a kind of portfolio and a sense check for the type of content they create.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, because there's no hiding behind anything. If a brand comes and say it's not an Instagram campaign, but a brand comes, you can kind of change up your proposal to kind of fit, not that we'd ever do it, but to fit the brand that came to us. But I suppose when you look on someone's Instagram, you can kind of get a feel for if they're fashion, if they're lifestyle, if they're food, whatever they might be. So it fits.
Exactly.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And also with the way that, we structure it too, is we have an invite-only platform. So everyone that's on the platform, they've gone through a vetting process to get on there. So it's not an open network. So we're only working with really top creators. And that creators doesn't mean that they have to have millions of followers. It's anyone from kind of, can be like a small threshold of 2,000 or 3,000. Up to kind of the 300,000 mark.
What way do you vet, right? Because I suppose the thing about Instagram influencers that people always bring up is you can go on XYZ website and buy 10,000 followers, 100,000 followers. And then people say, but the engagement's not there, but then you can buy likes and then you can buy comments, which are the most obvious comments in the world.
Yes.
But if you, how can you properly vet if someone has done the triple threat of followers, likes and comments?
So we're fortunate enough through our partnership with Facebook and Instagram, is we have API access. So what we're actually doing is pulling insights directly from business accounts on Instagram, and that kind of gives us a very good gauge of whether they've got an active audience, whether or not they've got good engagement, but real followers. We also run in parallel, we've got our own proprietary software that we look at as well. So making sure that they don't have kind of bots and, again, inactive accounts, and the accounts that are following them don't have more followers than they're following. So, they've got images and real profiles and things like that as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. We had a guy on a couple of weeks back from a travel tech company. Really exciting company, brilliant. And he works with influencers, but he said it took him so long to get it right, because he started the business, he was an entrepreneur, first company, started the business and worked with an influencer, didn't get any signups, right, and paid thousands. And then it went through and through and through, and eventually he said he found the right fit and the right sort of people. So his advice to the entrepreneurs watching was, you meet the influencer, right? And that was his thing. You meet the influencer and then make sure they recognize what the brand is and have a brand fit. But then he was saying that everyone can't do that and he can't scale that. That was his thing, right? Because the company's growing and growing and growing, and he's the CEO, and he goes, I can't go and meet 7 influencers this week for coffee. It's just not scalable.
Yeah. No, I mean, it depends what stage the business is at as well. Like, I mean, at that guy stage when you're just kind of starting out, I think even whether you're a startup or you're, a big corporate, we always tell brands it's about investing in the channel as well. So like doing one campaign and hoping for the best isn't the way it's going to work. You've got to kind of invest in it and do it over the long term, because really, it is seeding that word of mouth into the channel. And then, it kind of reaches that tipping point of where you start to see whether you're driving sign-ups or followers or, sales, whatever it is.
How much should the elephant in the room always with this is how much should someone pay, right? Because it's never consistent, right? You have 10,000 followers, I charge 1,000. I have 10,000 followers, I charge 500. I have 10,000 followers, it's $5,000.
Yeah.
Is that dependent on how specific what they're doing is, as in, their travel it's this much, if they're techie it's this much, if they're cars and watches it's this much, or what way?
Well, the way that we find it is, I mean, those all have a bearing on the price, but we actually find, we really value from our side, we value the effort and time that goes into creating the content. So for us, we actually say, like, if you're going to get them to do like a video, then you would charge, that you would pay them more for that than a still image or even a moving image. So it depends on the format is what we look at. It also depends, like, is the brand looking for them to post it? Do they just want the content that they can repurpose and reuse, maybe into the ad platform or back onto their own website? But I mean, of course, followers has a bearing on it, but there are a few industry standards now and kind of calculators where you can kind of work out what you should be paying. And I think for the most part, if you are a smaller business, it's relatively easy to kind of negotiate with them as well.
Yeah, if you're not open to it.
That's right. If you're not, a huge company like, Estee Lauder's a big client of ours, but if you're not a big corporate, and you're kind of doing things small, and I think if there's an affinity to the brand, then they're probably more likely to kind of work with you on that basis. Yeah.
We're nearly out of time, but one last thing before we wrap up. What's your one big piece of advice for the entrepreneurs watching who want to work with influencers?
I would always say that, I think that's a good piece of advice we talked before, start small and kind of get a sense for the channel. I'd always say there's, the biggest piece as well is being able to reuse the content. So when you look at creators, make sure that you're picking people who have a really nice aesthetic and then repurpose that content. It bypasses creative agencies and allows you to use them back onto your website and, back onto social channels where you constantly struggle for content.
Cool. Look, that's a great piece of advice. Aaron, thank you so much for
coming back
in.
Thank
again.
you.
Cheers.
Perfect. Mm-hmm.